In the last 24 hours, a close associate to Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah was assassinated in Damascus as the IDF hit Hezbollah targets in Baalbek, deep in Lebanon. Meanwhile, 2 Israeli civilians were killed when a Hezbollah rocket scored a direct hit on their car as they drove through the Golan Heights in northern Israel. In the Gaza Strip, Hamas terrorists have taken control of a high school in Khan Yunis as the IDF targets one of the conspirators behind the massacre of October 7th. In Judea and Samaria, the IDF is increasing its counter-terrorism activities, mainly in Tulkarem. Elsewhere, American intelligence agencies have revealed that Iran is behind many of the demonstrations against Israel. Let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 278th day of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and all of its terrorist proxy groups in Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. Late Wednesday morning, the IDF issued a statement regarding an operation to hit Hamas terrorists who had embedded themselves inside a school in Khan Yunis. Also included in this statement were details of a targeted strike on one of the men responsible for the Hamas massacre on October 7th against Israel. Although the airstrike which eliminated this terrorist was carried out with precision weapons, there were reports of damage to a nearby humanitarian tent where displaced Gazans were staying. This assassination can be added to a large number of targeted operations the IDF has carried out against key Hamas and Hezbollah operatives in recent days. Earlier this week, we learned of assassination of the representative of the Ministry of Labor in the Hamas government in Gaza, Ihab el-Hussein, as well as another terrorist who carried out a launch that crossed from the Sajaiya area and fell in an open area in the Nahal Oz in Israel that same day. These terrorist leaders were a key element in the ability of Hamas and Hezbollah to harm Israelis, but they won't be doing that anymore. Switching our focus now to the Gaza Strip, where the combat teams of the 7th Parachute Brigade has been fighting for over a week above and below ground in the Sajaiya neighborhood of Gaza City. In recent days, they have engaged in dozens of face-to-face battles which have resulted in the elimination of over 150 terrorists and the destruction of several tunnels, as well as large quantities of captured weapons and ammunition. Intelligence materials that were left behind by the terrorists is currently being examined and used to plan the next phase of the operation. The Yahalom Combat Engineers Unit has also been hard at work, and that hard work has led to the discovery of a large network of underground bunkers, tunnels, and branches running underneath the city. This underground network includes rooms where Hamas fighters slept, factories for producing rockets and other weapons, storage rooms for weapons, and all kinds of other military supplies, and administrative offices. In short, everything that is necessary for waging a war of terror against Israel and brutalizing the civilian population of the Gaza Strip. But Hamas won't have this underground network to use for these evil purposes anymore. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on these developments, but we need your help. Please share these videos on YouTube, follow and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and share this information with anyone who seeks to know what really is happening in Israel. You can also help by making a donation to the link that you see on YouTube or to www.tbn.org/Israel, and we will create more content from Israel from this conflict. One of the ways that we want to do that is by launching a new series that covers the migration of Islamist terrorism from the Middle East into the heart of Europe and North America. We will go to the ground and meet the people who are facing this threat, fighting it, and also with those who find hope. So in order for us to create this new content, we need your help. So please consider supporting us financially. Back to the news. According to a preliminary report in Arab news portals, 2 Hezbollah operatives were neutralized on Tuesday in a vehicle attack in the Damascus area. The Hezbollah organization has confirmed the death of the organization's operative Yasser Nimar Abu El-Fadel Karbash. He's a former bodyguard of Hassan Nasrallah and responsible for the organization's personnel. According to the reports, at this stage, it is not possible to identify the second victim due to the burning of the vehicle. The report, which attributes the attack to Israel, indicates that the vehicle was traveling to the Damascus-Beirut road near the Sabura checkpoint on the Jibat Yabus road in the countryside of Damascus. Karbash is known to be in charge of the personnel unit in Hezbollah, as well as to be responsible for transporting weapons to the organization from Syria. It was reported that before the missile was fired that destroyed his vehicle, several drones were observed flying over the international road between Damascus and Beirut. It seems that the strike took place in the border area between the countries, near the place where Syrian border guard forces are deployed. Following this assassination, the IDF forces deployed in the north went on high alert. And as expected, Hezbollah responded to the assassination of one of their most senior operatives with a furious barrage of rockets and drones into Israel. IDF spokesman reported that all through the day on Wednesday, the air defense units were very busy intercepting these weapons launched from Lebanon into the Israeli territory. In particular, the IDF spokesman announced that a number of launches were detected from the Rab el Talatin area in Lebanon to the Misgav area in Israel. The air defense unit successfully intercepted most of the launches, and a short time later, Division 91 forces identified two terrorists entering a Hezbollah-owned military structure in the area where the rockets had been launched from. They directed Air Force jets to attack the building, and it was destroyed. In another incident, on Tuesday afternoon, 40 rockets were launched into the Golan region. Two Israeli civilians, a husband and a wife, were killed by one of those rockets, which scored a direct hit on their car as they were traveling through the Golan Heights, where they live. News of their deaths was met with shock and sadness all throughout Israel. With all of this in mind, let's get down to the details for a moment in the exact tactics of the IDF and this assassination. If you can imagine for a moment the circumstances yesterday when the IDF observed a vehicle leaving Damascus, known to belong to Hezbollah's Unit 4400, otherwise known as the Transfer and Cooperation Unit. Known to be sitting in this vehicle is a very dangerous terrorist named Yasser Kemer Karnabash. He's a senior officer of the Unit 4400, and the IDF intelligence has determined that this man is involved in collaboration with other members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps network in the Middle East, the so-called Axis of Resistance. His work includes cooperating with these other terrorists in smuggling weapons and ammunition from Iran through Iraq and Syria into Lebanon so it can be used against Israelis. Hitting this vehicle and eliminating the evil terrorists it was carrying is a worthy goal unto itself. But it also allowed Israel to send a message to Iran, Syria, Hezbollah, and everyone else in the region, both friends and enemies, that Israel can and will wage unrelenting war against those who try to harm us. On the subject of sending messages, I will once again ask you to help us spread the truth by sharing these videos on YouTube and subscribing to this YouTube channel. It's very important that the world will know what is going on in this conflict. Switching our attention to Judea and Samaria, where the IDF and Shin Bet were involved in a complex 15-hour operation in the Nur el-Shams refugee camp near Tulkarem, which wrapped up on Tuesday afternoon. During the operation, large amounts of explosives meant to be used in fabricating bombs to be used against Israelis were uncovered, along with elements of the smuggling operation that brought these weapons into the region. According to reports in the Palestinian media portals, the engineering forces of the IDF that were operating in the camp caused great destruction, digging tunnels more than 2 meters deep to hide their activities. In videos and photos distributed from the camp, the work being done on these tunnels is plain to see, with large piles of dirt and sand on the side of the roads, along with digging tools that were taken up out of the ground. Also, in the alleys of the camp, the damage that has spread to some of the houses is also evident. The IDF spokesman stated that an extensive engineering operation was conducted in Nur el-Shams to demolish all these tunnels, as well as large quantities of explosives that were found in the area. This included booby traps and improvised explosive devices which were placed in traffic routes and meant to hit security forces and endanger the uninvolved residents of the area. While they were dealing with these threats, the IDF was also attacked by armed men who were sent out by a local terrorist organization. These attackers were quickly eliminated, while another suspected member of the organization was arrested. The purpose of the activity, among other things, was to preserve the IDF's freedom of action in the refugee camps, as was the case in several operations since the beginning of the war. But it also came as a response to the heavy explosive attacks that took place in the Tulkarm area and in Jenin in recent weeks, in which IDF soldiers were killed. At the beginning of last week, Sergeant Yehuda Gatto, a 22-year-old operational driver, was killed after the armored Panther vehicle in which he was traveling detonated an explosive device in the refugee camp. Another fighter, a commander in the Dudevan unit, was seriously injured as a result of the explosion. On June 27, Captain Alon Shchadjo, 22 years of age, of the Kfir Brigade's Haruv Patrol, was killed by the explosion of powerful explosive device that was buried deep in the ground, at least 1.5 meters, at the entrance to the refugee camp in Jenin. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on these developments, so please continue to support the truth. Share with anyone who wants to know what is happening here in this region, in this battle, because whatever is happening in the Middle East does not stay in the Middle East. So we need to stop this evil before it spreads. Finally, U.S. intelligence officials warned in a letter to the general public that the Iranian regime is working behind the scenes to fund and organize many of the protests against Israel that have sprung up on university campuses and major cities. The letter says, in part, that in recent weeks the Iranian government and agents on its behalf sought to opportunistically take advantage of the ongoing demonstrations regarding the war in Gaza. They are doing this using tactics that other countries have used in the past. We have seen elements connected to the Iranian government posing as activists online, seeking to encourage demonstrations and even providing financial support to the demonstrators themselves. The White House spokeswoman, Karine Jean-Pierre, referred to the report presented by the Director of National Intelligence regarding Iran and said that Washington's message to Tehran is that the United States will not allow interference in its policies.
And a firm message from here to Iran and any other foreign actor that seeks to conduct these types of influence activities, meddling in our politics and seeking to stoke division is unacceptable. And we will continue to expose attempts to undermine our democracy and our society just as we are today.
One of the key elements in the context of the demonstrations against Israel in the United States are the series of violent protests that broke out at the Columbia University in New York. In the course of these protests, it was necessary for the New York Police Department to raid a university student compound after dozens of pro-Palestinian protests barricaded themselves inside. The president of the university warned the students prior to this that they must evacuate the protest camps they set up on campus or they will be shut down. 2 months ago, the university administration expelled a student who expressed support for killing Zionists, along with calling for the assassination of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. Many Jewish students at Columbia also spoke out about the reluctance to attend class or otherwise go out in public due to chants on campus to become martyrs and kill soldiers. I want to conclude by paying my last respects to a hero who fell defending the state of Israel. The IDF spokesman announced on Thursday that Major Tal Lahat, 21 years of age, from Kfar Saba, is a fighter in the Maglan unit in the commando formation, and he was recently killed in battle in the center of the Gaza Strip. So please continue to pray for the peace of the IDF soldiers. They need the love and support. It's very hard to fight there, in the Gaza Strip, all alone, surrounded by terrorists. Please continue to pray for the peace of Israel, and most importantly, please pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.